All right, welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a little bit of programming magic. We're going to explore Python strings. These are the simple but incredibly powerful tools that let software talk directly to you, from greeting you by name all the way to sharing a famous quote. So let's just dive right in.
So think about it for a second. When you sign up for an app and it immediately greets you with, "Hello, Sarah," how in the world does it do that? I mean, it kind of feels like magic, right? But it's actually a really simple and elegant piece of code doing all the work. And it all starts with one tiny step. You see, before a program can use your name, it has to have a way to store it, to remember it. And in programming, we do this using something called a variable. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like a labeled box where we can just stick a piece of information to use later. And here's exactly what that looks like in Python. Just like you see here, we're creating a box, we're labeling it name, and we're putting the word Eric inside. Now those quotes, they are key. That's our signal to Python that Eric is just text, not some kind of command. And with this one single line, we have our very first tool for working with text. Okay, so we've stored a name. Great. But how do we actually use it in a sentence? I mean, we could just type it out, but what if the name changes? Well, that's where this really powerful little trick comes in, and it's known as an F string. Trust me, it's a total game changer for making dynamic messages. Let's break this down real quick. See that F right before the quote? That basically activates F string mode. But the real magic, that's happening inside those curly braces. When Python sees @name, it doesn't just print the word name. No way. Instead, it looks inside our name box, finds Eric, and slots it perfectly into the sentence. So you can think of it like this. An F string is basically a template. You write the sentence just one time, and Python takes care of filling in all the blanks with whatever is in your variables. It's an incredibly efficient way to build personalized messages, which is exactly why you'll see it absolutely everywhere in modern Python code. Now, let's take that same idea and apply it to something else. Here, we have a famous quote from Albert Einstein. We can use the exact same technique, the very same one, to store both the quote and the person who said it. This keeps our code really clean and super reusable. And this just brilliantly shows off the power of variables. We're not just stuck with one name or one message. We can create a variable for the person, maybe call it famous_person, and another one for the message itself, and then just combine them exactly like we did before. See, it's the same pattern, just with different content. We store Albert Einstein in our famous person variable, and then we use an F string to build that final output. This makes our code unbelievably flexible. You want to feature a quote from someone else? You just change the value in that one variable. That's it. So we can create and combine text. Awesome. But what happens when the text you get from a user isn't, perfectly formatted? Let's talk about the tools we have for mastering how text actually looks. I want you to imagine your app asks for a user's name. One person might type John Smith, another John Smith, and maybe a third types John Smith. To a computer, those are all completely different things. So we need a way to standardize them, to make them all consistent. Let's just take this example. The name is right, functionally, but it's not capitalized the way it should be. We need a way to fix this automatically, without having to go in and edit it by hand every single time. And luckily, Python gives us some really simple, really powerful tools for exactly this job. Okay, now what's so cool about this is how ridiculously simple the fixes are. We do this using something called methods. Just think of them as built-in actions that our string variable already knows how to do. You just add a dot and the method name. So as you can see, dot lower makes everything lowercase. Dot upper makes everything all caps. And dot title, that gives us that perfect, clean capitalization for a name. So satisfying. Okay, fixing capitalization is one thing, but sometimes the mess is way harder to sport. There's another really common problem with text data, invisible characters that can cause all sorts of headaches. Let's look at our polishing tools. Yeah, this problem is often caused by these invisible characters we call white space. This includes normal spaces, sure, but also things like tabs and new lines that can sneak in when text gets copied and pasted. You can't even see them, but they can totally confuse your program. Let me show you what I mean. And here is our solution. The dot strip method is like a magic eraser for all that invisible junk. Just look at the before and after here. It gets rid of all the white space at the beginning and the end, and it leaves you with just the clean core text. This is absolutely critical for things like checking a username on a website, so the system doesn't get thrown off by extra spaces. And what's great is you have even more control. If you only want to clean up the beginning of the text, you can use .lstrip for left strip. If you only need to clean the end, there's .rstrip for right strip. But honestly, most of the time, .strip, which handles both sides at once, is going to be your go-to polisher. So in just a few minutes, we've gone from a simple piece of text to a whole collection of tools for playing with it. Let's do a super quick recap of the powerful new toolkit you now have at your disposal. You now know how to build personalized messages with f-strings. You can control capitalization with .lower, .upper, and .title, and you can clean up that messy, invisible white space with .strip. Believe me, these are the fundamental building blocks for working with pretty much any kind of text in Python. And that's pretty much it. You've gone from just a simple name to a full toolkit for shaping, cleaning, and personalizing text. Your code can now actually be interactive and dynamic. We started this by asking how an app says, "Hello, Sarah." Well, now you know how. So the real question is, what are you going to make your program say?